For 5 years she lived believing she knew every detail of the son she brought home from the hospital. The routine, the memories, the hugs, everything seemed unquestionable, until the day the phone rang. On the other end of the line, a voice from the past brought a devastating revelation. Your son was switched at birth. Faced with the unthinkable, she had to make a choice no mother should have to face, between the love she built and a truth that would change everything. What would you do if the world you built was suddenly put to the test? Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is the Linda's Stories channel. I hope you enjoy this story. The night was chaotic at Central Hospital. A bus accident had brought in dozens of injured people, and the emergency room was overflowing with those needing urgent care. Doctors rushed through the corridors, nurses tried to organize the patients, and amidst all that confusion, I waited anxiously in the maternity ward with a swollen belly and a tight heart. My name is Emma Miller. I'm 32 years old, and I was about to meet my first child. Beside me, another expectant mother was also waiting, with a tired expression and eyes full of anticipation. Our connection was immediate, one of those that arises in moments of shared vulnerability. First child? She asked, adjusting uncomfortably in her chair. Yes, I replied, rubbing my belly in circular motions. And you? Fourth. She smiled, showing small wrinkles at the corners of her eyes. I have 3 at home, 2 boys and a girl, all waiting for the little one. She introduced herself as Sarah Donovan, a 38-year-old teacher. We talked about expectations, fears, and the little things that only those about to give birth understand. I talked about my husband, Jack, who was stuck in a work meeting and was desperately trying to reach the hospital in time. They always seem to be busy at the most important times, don't they? Joked Sarah, and we both laughed, forming a momentary connection. For a brief moment, we were just 2 women united by the same expectation, the same fear, the same hope. With a tired smile, we wished each other good luck, without imagining how our lives would intertwine permanently. When I was finally called into the delivery room, everything happened in a whirlwind. I remember the pain, the screams, the bright lights, and the firm commands of the medical team. And then, suddenly, the cry. That first sound that changed my life forever. It's a healthy boy, announced the doctor, placing the tiny bundle in my arms. Time seemed to stop. My son was perfect, with soft brown hair and a round, rosy face. When he opened his eyes for the first time, I felt an instant connection, a love I never imagined was possible. I named him Oliver, as we had decided months before. Due to the commotion at the hospital, Oliver was taken for tests earlier than usual. He showed a slight jaundice and would need light therapy. I hesitated to let him go, but I knew it was for his own good. While waiting, I heard another baby crying, probably Sarah's child, I thought. I hoped she was feeling the same happiness I was. 5 years have passed since that tumultuous night. Oliver grew up surrounded by love, transforming our home with his laughter, his incessant questions, and his boundless imagination. He was a boy of inexhaustible energy, who loved dinosaurs, building block cities and telling far-fetched stories to his favourite teddy bear, Mr. Buttons. Jack and I built a simple and happy life. We lived in a small but cosy house with a garden where Oliver could play. The bills didn't always add up at the end of the month, and sometimes we had to forego small luxuries, but we never lacked the essentials, especially love. That October morning, I was in the office where I worked as an administrative assistant. I had just organised a stack of documents when the phone rang. The voice on the other end of the line was formal and hesitant. Am I speaking with Emma Miller? Yes, that's me. This is Dr. Reynolds from Central Hospital. My heart tightened. Unexpected calls from hospitals rarely bring good news. We need you to come to the hospital as soon as possible. We have a matter of utmost importance to discuss about Oliver. Did something happen to him? I asked, feeling the panic rise. No, your son is fine, but we need to talk in person. It's delicate. I dropped everything and rushed to the hospital, calling Oliver's school on the way to confirm that he was okay. My mind was racing with 1,000 catastrophic scenarios. Some late-discovered genetic condition? Something from last year's routine exams? At the hospital, I was led to a meeting room where 3 people awaited me. Dr. Reynolds, whom I recognized from the maternity ward, a woman in a suit who introduced herself as the hospital's attorney, and a tired-looking man carrying a thick folder of documents. "Mrs. Miller, thank you for coming so quickly," began Dr. Reynolds, nervously adjusting his glasses. "What we have to discuss today is extremely delicate and... well, there's no easy way to say this." The lawyer intervened. "Mrs. Miller, a recent internal investigation discovered a serious mistake that occurred on the night your son was born." "What kind of mistake?" My voice came out weaker than I expected. The doctor took a deep breath. "There was an identification mix-up. Oliver is not your biological son. Your real son went home with another family." The world seemed to slow down and at the same time spin violently. The words echoed in my head but made no sense. Oliver was not my son. How could they say this about the boy I cradled on endless nights, whose first steps I witnessed, whose smile lit up my darkest days? "This is impossible," I whispered, grasping the edge of the table. "There must be some mistake." "We conducted a thorough investigation, and all that remains is the DNA testing to confirm," explained the man with the folder, opening it to reveal graphs and numbers that to me were incomprehensible at that moment. "There is no doubt." "Does the other family already know?" I managed to ask, while trying to process the unthinkable. "We are contacting them simultaneously," the lawyer replied. "Mrs. Sarah Donovan and her family." Sarah. The name made my stomach turn. The woman I had spoken to that night, who was expecting her 4th child. Her gentle face came back to my memory, and a wave of conflicting emotions washed over me. The following days were a blur of confusion, anger, and tears. How do you explain to a 5-year-old boy that, due to a mistake, he was not technically our son? How do you process that my biological son, the one I carried for 9 months, was growing up in another house, calling someone else Mum? Jack reacted with a mix of shock and practical determination. At night, after Oliver was asleep, we discussed in anguished whispers. "He is our son, Emma," Jack repeated, holding my trembling hands. "It doesn't matter what these papers or tests say." "But we have another son out there, Jack," I replied through tears. "A boy we've never met who doesn't know who we are." The hospital arranged a meeting between the families. On the scheduled day, I dressed Oliver in his favourite dinosaur t-shirt and tried to explain, as best as I could, that we were going to meet some special people. "Like an adventure?" he asked, his large brown eyes shining with the innocence that made my heart ache. "Yes, dear," I replied, adjusting his unruly hair. "Like an adventure." The hospital meeting room was decorated with toys and children's books in a clumsy attempt to make the environment less intimidating. When the door opened, I saw Sarah enter, holding the hand of a small boy. Beside her was a tall man with a worried expression, her husband, presumably, and 3 older children who looked at us curiously. Time seemed to freeze when I saw the boy. He had blonde hair and blue eyes, exactly like Jack's. I saw traces of my father in his chin, the shape of my own nose. It was like looking at an alternative version of Oliver, a glimpse of what could have been. His name was Ethan. "Hello, Emma," said Sarah, with the same gentle voice I remembered from 5 years ago. Her eyes were red, probably from the same sleepless nights I had faced. The children, oblivious to the weight of the moment, began interacting almost immediately. Oliver showed Ethan his little pocket dinosaur, and Ethan responded by revealing a rocket keychain. Ethan's older siblings included Oliver in their games, treating him as if they had known him for years. "He seems happy," commented Sarah, watching Oliver. "You all did a great job." "Ethan too," I replied, feeling a lump in my throat. "He has your smile." The adults spoke in low voices while the children played. Kevin, Sarah's husband, was a school bus driver and, just like Jack, was passionate about his son, the son who, biologically, was ours. The Donovan family lived in an old house on the outskirts of the city, with a large backyard where the children could run freely. "What do we do now?" Kevin asked, voicing the question that weighed on all of us. The hospital had brought together specialists, child psychologists, social workers, lawyers, but none of them had easy answers. Legally, we could demand the return of the children, sue the hospital, create a huge drama that would destroy the life our children knew. But looking at Oliver and Ethan playing together, building a tower of colourful blocks, a certainty grew within me. I couldn't separate Oliver from everything he knew and loved. And I knew, by the look on Sarah's face when she watched Ethan, that she felt the same way. In the following weeks, our families met regularly. The children, with the wonderful adaptability of childhood, accepted the situation with a simplicity that made us feel ashamed. For them, it was simple. They gained more friends, more adults who loved them, more places to play. "Mum, can I go to Ethan's house on Saturday? He's going to show me his toy car collection," Oliver asked, jumping excitedly. Each visit brought a mix of joy and pain. Watching my biological son grow up, discovering his preferences, his fears, his little quirks, all this while trying to maintain my emotional balance for Oliver, who continued to be the centre of my world. It was Sarah who proposed the idea during one of our meetings. "What if, instead of fighting against it, we embraced the situation?" she suggested while we watched the children in the park. "What if, instead of two separate families trying to deal with an impossible situation, we became an extended family?" The proposal was radical, but it made sense in a strange and comforting way. Instead of courtroom battles, shared custody, or heart-wrenching choices, we could create a new kind of family, one born from a mistake, but built with love. It wasn't easy. There were days when I lost myself looking at baby photos of Ethan, imagining all the moments I missed. Jack sometimes remained quiet, silently processing the complexity of the situation. The Donovans also had their moments of doubt and sadness, but there was joy too. Lots of joy. We celebrated birthdays together, organised backyard campouts at the Donovans, and created holiday traditions that mixed those of both families. Ethan's older brothers adopted Oliver as another little sibling, and Oliver, previously an only child, thrived with the attention of older brothers. "Do you know what's funny?" Sarah commented one night as we watched the children sleep after an exhausting day of play. "I think that, even without the mistake, we would have been good friends." "I do too," I agreed, realizing the truth of those words. A year after the revelation, we filed a joint lawsuit against the hospital. We did not ask for the separation of the children or for traumatic decisions. We asked for compensation for the emotional damages and funds to secure the educational future of both boys. The case was settled discreetly, and the money was placed in educational funds for all 5 children. On a quiet summer afternoon, 2 years after the discovery that changed our lives, we were all gathered in the miller's backyard. The children were running and screaming, Jack and Kevin were discussing how to fix the tree swing, and Sarah and I were preparing lemonade in the kitchen. "I never imagined my family could be like this," commented Sarah, slicing lemons. "So unconventional." "Neither did I replied, grabbing sugar from the cabinet. "But now I can't imagine it any other way." Through the window I saw Oliver fall and hurt his knee. Before I could react, Kevin was already there, comforting him with the same kindness he showed his own children. At the same time, Jack was helping Ethan climb a tree with the same attentive care he gave to Oliver. In that moment, I understood a fundamental truth. Family is not just about blood or DNA. It's about who is there to dry the tears, celebrate the victories, hold your hand in moments of fear. It's about unconditional love, even when, especially when, the circumstances are imperfect. Oliver ran into the kitchen with a band-aid on his knee and a smile on his face. "Mum, Uncle Kevin said we can build a fort in the backyard. Can I help, please?" I looked at Sarah, and we both smiled. Uncle Kevin. Aunt Sarah. Our children had found their own way to define our unconventional family, and it was perfect in its simplicity. "Of course you can, dear," I replied, kissing the top of his head. "Go ahead." Oliver ran out, and Sarah squeezed my hand in a silent gesture of understanding. What began as a terrible medical mistake had turned into something unexpectedly beautiful, a family expanded by love, not diminished by tragedy. Outside, the children's laughter filled the afternoon air, different by birth, united by choice. And in the end, isn't that what all families should be? If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.